A man sends a message. He spent 20 minutes writing it. He rewrote the last sentence 4 times. He second-guessed the punctuation. He debated whether to use an emoji or not. And then he sent it. And now he's waiting. Not just waiting, monitoring. He watches the little indicator beneath the message. 2 gray ticks. He refreshes his mind like a broken browser. He picks his phone up, sets it down, picks it up again. He tells himself he doesn't care. But his whole nervous system is running a background program called, "What does she think of me right now?" Here's the uncomfortable question nobody wants to ask out loud. When did a grown man's sense of peace become dependent on a text message reply? This isn't just about dating. This is about something much deeper. A quiet epidemic of men who have outsourced their identity, their confidence, and their emotional stability to the opinions of other people. And the most disturbing part, most of them don't even know it's happening. But then there are the other men, the ones who send the message and genuinely go on with their lives. Not because they're cold, not because they don't care, but because somewhere along the way they found something that most men spend their entire lives searching for in the wrong places. They found their own approval. This video is about what separates those 2 types of men, and what happens psychologically, relationally, spiritually, when a man finally stops chasing validation and starts generating it from within. Let me paint you another picture. 2 men, same coffee shop, same Saturday afternoon, both on dates with attractive, intelligent women. The first man, let's call him Marcus, arrived 10 minutes early, not because he respects his time, but because he was afraid she'd think he was irresponsible if he was late. He's been rehearsing talking points in his head since Thursday. When she laughs, he laughs slightly louder than feels natural, calibrating his reaction to her approval. When she mentions she likes hiking, he says, "Oh, I love hiking too." He hasn't hiked in 6 years. When she goes to the bathroom, he checks his reflection in his phone camera, not out of vanity, out of anxiety. He is, in this moment, performing. The entire date is a job interview where he's desperately trying to get hired for a role he's not even sure he wants. The second man, let's call him Daniel, showed up on time, not anxiously early, not fashionably late. On time, because that's what he does. He asked her real questions and actually listened to the answers. When she mentioned hiking, he said, "I've never been into it myself, but I'd be curious what you love about it." Honest. Grounded. When there was a natural pause in conversation, he didn't scramble to fill it. He sat in it, comfortably. At the end of the night, Marcus went home and replayed every sentence he said, analyzing what she might have thought. He sent a follow-up text immediately. Too soon, too eager, and then spent the next 3 days in a low-grade emotional hostage situation waiting for her response. Daniel went home, made dinner, read for an hour, and went to sleep. Now here's what's interesting. The woman told her friend the next day that she was far more attracted to Daniel, and she couldn't quite explain why. But we can. What you just witnessed in those 2 men isn't really about confidence in the conventional sense. It's not about looks, money, status, or charisma. It's about something neurological and deeply psychological, emotional self-sufficiency. Marcus's entire internal world was running on external fuel. Every word he said, every gesture he made, every choice on that date was filtered through one invisible question: will this make her like me more? His sense of self wasn't located inside him. It was located inside her perception of him. Psychologists call this external locus of control, the belief that your sense of worth, safety, and value is determined by forces outside yourself. And the brutal irony, the more desperately a person needs your approval, the less you want to give it to them. This is not a cruel quirk of human nature, it's an evolutionary signal. When someone needs your validation to feel okay, your subconscious reads that as, "This person has no internal resources. They are leaning on me for something they should be providing for themselves." That's not attractive. That's not safe. That's not someone you want to build a life with. But Daniel's sense of self didn't rise or fall based on her reaction. His identity was not on the table. He was present, he was engaged, he was warm, but he was also whole. He brought a complete person to the table. not a collection of performances optimized for her approval. That is the difference between a man who is seeking and a man who has found. And here is the observation that should make you uncomfortable. Most men in the modern world are Marcus, and the system was specifically designed to keep them that way. We need to talk about the machine, because approval seeking in men didn't emerge in a vacuum. It was cultivated, engineered, monetized. Think about what modern social media is at its core. It is a system that takes the most primal human need, the need to be seen, valued, and accepted, and turns it into a measurable, quantifiable number. Likes, followers, views, comments, hearts. For the first time in human history, a man can wake up in the morning and immediately measure his social worth in real time. And the terrifying part is that those numbers feel like reality. They feel like truth. A post gets 200 likes and your brain releases dopamine. A post gets 12 likes and you feel a vague, formless shame you can't quite explain. You didn't consciously decide to tie your self-worth to those numbers, but the platform trained you to through variable reward schedules, the same mechanism used in slot machines. Then there's dating apps. Dating apps took one of the most psychologically complex human experiences, romantic connection, and gamified it into a system where a man's value is reduced to a left or right swipe made in under 2 seconds. And what does this do to male psychology over time? It doesn't just lower self-esteem, it does something more insidious. It teaches men to compete for female approval as if it is the primary measure of their worth. Swipe right enough times. Get rejected enough times. Optimize your profile enough times. And slowly, without realizing it, a man begins to unconsciously believe that his value is contingent on whether women want him. That is a psychologically devastating belief to carry through life. And here is where the cultural critique gets uncomfortable. This isn't just a technology problem. We raised boys to seek external validation by making their worth conditional on performance. Good grades earned love, athletic achievement earned respect, emotional stoicism was rewarded, emotional expression was punished. We raised a generation of men who learned that love is something you earn, not something you deserve by simply existing. And when you believe that love must be earned, you spend your whole life performing, auditioning, seeking the approval you never learned to give yourself. The result? A culture full of adult men who are deeply, quietly dependent on the opinions of other people, and completely unaware of it. The most dangerous cage is the one you can't see. Let's get into the realizations. Some of these will feel like permission. Some will feel like an accusation. All of them are true. Approval seeking is not humility. It's anxiety wearing humility's clothes. There's a lie that approval seekers tell themselves, I'm just being considerate. I just care about what other people think. No, considerate people think about others. Approval seekers think about what others think about them. These are completely different orientations. One is outward-facing, one is self-obsessed, just in a socially acceptable direction. True humility says, I may be wrong and I'm open to feedback. Approval seeking says, please tell me I'm okay. I need to know I'm okay. I cannot function until I know you think I'm okay. The first is strength. The second is a wound walking around in a polite disguise. The men women are most attracted to are not the men who need them most. This will upset people. Good. There is a fantasy, propagated by movies, by pop songs, by every romantic comedy ever made, that the most lovable man is the one who needs the woman. The one who would fall apart without her. The one who says, you complete me. That is not attraction, that is a burden. The men who generate the deepest, most sustained attraction in women are the men who choose them rather than need them. Men who are whole enough that a relationship is an addition to their life, not the foundation of it. A woman can feel on a cellular level whether a man's stability is coming from within him or from her. And when she feels his stability is coming from her, she feels the weight of being someone's entire emotional infrastructure. That's not romantic, that's exhausting. She doesn't want to be your anchor, she wants to sail with you. Self-mastery is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming the source. There's a common misunderstanding about what it means to stop seeking approval. People think it means becoming emotionally unavailable, indifferent, the guy who doesn't care about anything. That is not self-mastery, that is trauma wearing a stoic mask. True self-mastery means you have become the source of your own emotional stability. You generate warmth, you don't extract it from others. You bring energy to a room, you don't drain it. You can be deeply caring, deeply present, deeply engaged in a relationship, without making the other person responsible for your inner state. The difference between the needy man and the self-mastered man is not that one feels less, it's that one generates and the other consumes. Most men mistake activity for inner work. Here is a painful one: going to the gym, building a business, getting a good haircut, dressing well. None of these things on their own will cure approval seeking. You can have a great body and a terrible relationship with your own self-worth. You can drive an expensive car and still be emotionally outsourcing your peace to whoever texted you last. Men mistake external achievement for internal transformation. They think, if I just get successful enough, attractive enough, impressive enough, then I'll finally feel okay. But approval seeking is not a resource problem. It's a belief problem. It's the deep subconscious conviction that your value is contingent, that you must earn your place in the world through constant performance. And no amount of external achievement fixes a broken internal belief. The work is internal, always was, always will be. The man who needs nothing from you is the most generous man in the room. This sounds paradoxical. Sit with it. When a man needs your approval, every interaction with him is subtly transactional. Every kind thing he does comes loaded with an invisible invoice. Notice me, validate me, confirm that I am good. His generosity is not free, it is currency. But when a man has genuine inner abundance, when he genuinely doesn't need anything from you, his presence is a gift. He can listen to you without needing to be impressive. He can compliment you without needing a compliment back. He can be honest with you even when honesty is uncomfortable, because he's not managing your perception of him. That kind of man is rare, and that is why people are drawn to him like moths to a light in a dark room. The generous man is not the one who gives the most, he's the one who needs the least. Now we go deeper, because everything I've said so far is about behavior and psychology. But underneath the behavior is something most men are not willing to look at directly. The approval you've been seeking from others is the approval you never gave yourself. Let me say that again. You are not seeking validation from women, from social media, from your father, from society. Not really. You are seeking confirmation of something you have never actually believed about yourself, that you are enough. Think about the last time you were waiting anxiously for someone's response. What were you actually afraid of? Not really that she wouldn't text back. You were afraid that her silence confirmed the thing you already secretly believed, that you are not enough, that you are not worthy, that if people really knew you, really saw all of you, they would leave. That is the wound underneath the behavior. And until that wound is addressed, no amount of self-improvement, no number of successful dates, no social media following will fix it, because you will always need more confirmation. The hunger doesn't have a bottom. Here's a story that illustrates this. A man I'll call Elijah spent 12 years chasing success, not because he wanted success particularly, but because he grew up in a household where love was conditional on achievement. His father praised him when he won, was silent when he lost. So Elijah learned early, performance equals worth. By his late 30s, Elijah had the career, the apartment, the accolades, and he was miserable in a way he couldn't explain to anyone. Because here's the thing about approval seeking. When you finally get the approval, it doesn't land, it doesn't stick. You feel it for a moment, and then the hunger comes back. Because he wasn't actually chasing success. He was chasing the feeling he thought success would give him. And that feeling, the feeling of being unconditionally valued, was never going to come from outside, no matter how much he achieved. Elijah had to do the hardest thing a person can do. He had to go back to the place in himself where he first decided he wasn't enough, and challenge that decision. That is what self-mastery actually is. It's not a set of habits. It's not a morning routine. It is the radical act of deciding that your worth is not up for debate, not with the internet, not with the woman you're dating, not with the father who never told you he was proud. Your worth is not a question. It was never a question. You just got convinced it was. Visuals, suggestion, transition, slightly warmer tone. Now here's the part where this gets counterintuitive. When a man stops seeking approval, when he genuinely does the inner work and becomes self-sourced, something strange happens in his relationships. They get better, not because he became cold or distant or played games, but because he stopped treating relationships like rescue missions. He stopped treating women like approval dispensers. He stopped showing up with an invisible clipboard tallying whether he was liked enough yet. He started showing up as a person, whole, present, secure. And that changes everything. Because here's what most men don't understand about attraction. Women, and people in general, don't fall for the performance. The performance is impressive for maybe 5 minutes. What actually creates deep, lasting attraction is the felt sense that you are safe to be around, that you won't collapse if she challenges you, that you won't become needy if she's having a bad day, that her emotional state is not your emergency. A self-mastered man creates psychological safety, not by being perfect, but by being stable. And stability, genuine, internal, unshakable stability, is perhaps the most attractive quality a human being can possess. It says, I have done the work. I know who I am. You cannot destabilize me, and that means you can actually relax around me. That is a rare gift. And here's the thing about the self-mastered man that society consistently misrepresents. He is not indifferent. He is not emotionally unavailable. He is not playing hard to get. He is simply oriented differently. The approval-seeking man is oriented outward. Every thought, every decision, every interaction filtered through what will they think. The self-mastered man is oriented inward. What do I think? What do I value? What is actually true here? This inward orientation doesn't mean selfishness. It means self-knowledge. And self-knowledge is the foundation of every genuine relationship, every honest conversation, every decision made from clarity rather than fear. You cannot truly give yourself to another person until you actually have a self to give. Let's talk about one more scenario, because this one might hit the hardest. James is 41 years old. He has been in 3 long-term relationships. Each one followed the same arc. In the beginning, he was attentive, present, caring. Over time, he became anxious, clingy. He would monitor her moods and take them personally. When she was distant, he would panic internally. Was it something he did? Was she losing interest? He would oscillate between pursuing her harder and pulling back in an attempt to seem less desperate. All 3 relationships ended, and each time, the woman said some variation of the same thing. I just felt like I couldn't be myself around you, like I had to manage your feelings. James never understood this. He thought he was just loving deeply. He thought his attentiveness was a gift. But here's what the women felt that James couldn't see. They felt responsible for his emotional state. They felt that his happiness or unhappiness was always somehow contingent on them, which meant they could never be in a bad mood, never need space, never have a hard day without it becoming about James. That is what unresolved approval-seeking does to a relationship. It doesn't just affect the man, it suffocates the woman. It turns her from a partner into a caretaker. And no one wants to be someone else's caretaker indefinitely. James needed to understand that the most loving thing he could do, for himself and for the women in his life, was to stop outsourcing his emotional regulation to them. To build the internal capacity to hold his own anxiety, his own fear, his own need for reassurance, without making that someone else's problem. That's not stoicism, that's maturity. Here is the truth that this whole video has been circling. Most men will spend their entire lives seeking a feeling from the outside world that can only be generated from within. They will chase it through achievements, through relationships, through social media numbers, through status symbols, and they will never find it out there because it was never out there to begin with. The validation you've been looking for, it lives in the moment you stop looking for it. Not because you became numb, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally did the terrifying, unglamorous, deeply necessary work of deciding that you are enough. Not when you're successful enough. Not when you're successful enough. Not when you fixed everything you think is wrong with you. Now, as you are, unfinished and real. The self-mastered man is not the man who has conquered all his flaws. He is not the man who never feels fear or insecurity or longing. He is the man who has stopped making other people responsible for his wounds. He is the man who looked at all the broken, unresolved, unhealed parts of himself and chose to work on them. Not to impress anyone, not to become more attractive, not to win some cultural competition of self-improvement, but because he decided his own life was worth taking seriously. That's the quiet revolution nobody talks about. Not the men who perform confidence, not the men who've memorized scripts about how to seem desirable, but the men who went inward into the uncomfortable silence of their own psychology and built something real there, something no one can take away, something that doesn't rise and fall with a text message. When you meet a man like that, you feel it immediately. There's a quality to his presence that's difficult to articulate. He doesn't need to dominate the room. He doesn't need to prove anything. He listens in a way that feels different from most people, like he's actually there, not just waiting for his turn to speak. He's attractive not because he's playing a game, but because he's done playing games, including the internal game of constantly measuring himself against some imaginary standard of what he should be. He is, in the truest sense, at home in himself. And that is the thing that every human being, at the deepest level, is actually looking for. Not someone who will complete them, someone who is already complete, someone who chose themselves, and because of that, can genuinely choose you too. The men who stop seeking approval don't stop caring, they just stop begging. And the moment a man stops begging for his place in the world, and simply takes it, everything changes. His relationships change. His presence changes. His relationship with himself changes. He is no longer a man waiting to be confirmed. He is a man who is. And that is the most powerful thing any human being can become. If something in this video landed for you, if you saw yourself in Marcus or in James, or in the man checking his phone at 2 a.m., waiting for a message that might confirm he's okay, drop a comment below. Tell me where you are in this journey, because this isn't a comfortable conversation to have with yourself. And sometimes the first step is just naming it out loud. The work is internal. It always was. And you're worth doing it.